Hello. Today we will be taking notes on the basics of economics so that we have some key information before we start to read the very fun book Lawn Boy by Gary Paulson. In order to do this, you need to make sure that you have the notes packet your teacher gave you. It has pictures of the slides on the left side and lines on the right where you'll be answering questions and documenting information that we left out of your packet. Our first question today is, which one of these two things would you rather be doing right now? You can go ahead and circle it, draw a heart around it, whatever shows how much you'd really rather be doing one of these two things. Now, to answer this question, you automatically thought of costs and benefits. A cost is something that you give up in making a choice, and a benefit is something you gain. Now, the question is, what would be the costs and benefits of you doing this right now? You can remember, go ahead, you can hit pause as you copy the definition of each of these words, and while you think about this question, there will be room to answer it in a moment. Now, the costs and benefits. So why have you chosen to be here at school instead? What are some of your costs and your benefits? Please go ahead and make sure you have that written down on your paper. Now, the big question is, why do you have to choose? Why can't you be doing both? The answer to that is scarcity. We have to choose because of scarcity. Scarcity tells you that I can't do both. I have to make a choice. And since you can't have everything that you want, economics helps us get the most out of what we can have. So often, economics is just a study of choices. I can't have everything, so how do I pick which one I'm going to do? You ever heard the phrase, there's no such thing as a free lunch? Even though this sign says it's true, is it truly free? I might not give up money, but what kind of things am I giving up by attending? So, what is an opportunity cost? I'm going to pause and allow you to discuss this with your teachers for a moment. We'll go on to the next slide when you're done. If I eat lunch from 12 to 1 p.m., what can't I do? Go ahead on your own paper and list 3 examples. What things would you rather be doing? Pause for a little bit of class discussion. Now, opportunity cost is the best option given up when you make a choice. So it's not like, oh, well, I went to school, so darn, I can't wash the dog or clean my room. Your true opportunity cost is the thing that you give up when you choose to do something else that you wish you could have done. It's the next cool thing. So I want you to write on your paper, and you can pause again, what's the opportunity cost of the following decisions? First, buying a gift for a friend, working at a job after school, waiting online for an hour to buy a new cell phone, and playing on your Xbox for 2 hours after dinner. So please write down another awesome thing that you're giving up in order to do this thing. Now, do you all have the same answers? Why or why not? And that brings us to the question again of what is economics? Like I said earlier, Economics is the study of how people make choices. When you make a good economic decision, the benefits will be greater than the cost. So, economics is really the study of how people cope with scarcity. You have to understand and recognize you cannot have everything. But a good economic decision makes the benefits outweigh the costs, so it makes you the most satisfied. It makes you the happiest with what you've chosen to do. Now, utility leads to satisfaction. So the guy on the left dancing, he made a good decision. And that's what we look for every time we make a decision, is utility. Now, the guy on the right apparently experienced a diminished level of utility. So he had a bad decision, less utility. So then the next question is, why do people make the decision to go into business for themselves? I want you to stop and think, why would someone want to own their own business? Lawn Boy is about a young boy who does go into business for himself. And so this is an important thought to start discussing. This is known as entrepreneurship. He's a teenage entrepreneur. Now on here it says take out a piece of paper, but you already have that paper and I've already drawn the lines for you. I want you to label one side benefit and the other side costs. And think about what would some benefits of opening your own business be and what would some costs be. Please go ahead and hit pause here so that everyone has time to think through their blanks on their paper. And then I'm going to put up some examples of what people have said in the past to add to your discussion. Alright, so now that you guys have talked about some of the benefits and costs, let's look at some. Some benefits, some reasons many people choose to go into work for themselves are profit. They want to make more money. To be your own boss, because then you decide when you go in and when you go home, you think. Have freedom to do the things that you want to do. Or maybe you start a business because there's a need for it and you know how to do it, so you know it'll be a good job. To control your schedule and get paid more for your work. Some costs, if it fails, it's all on you. So there's no one to share the cost with, and there's a good chance it won't work. There's nobody to have responsibilities or skills. So, if there's a problem, you're the one they call every time. And to do the job of the worker and the boss, that's a hard thing. You're not just the boss, you're doing everything. Clean up on aisle 3, well, that'll be you. Now, people respond to incentives. Incentives are things like rewards that motivate a person to do something. Punishment is meant to be a disincentive. So here we have our cartoon where he's drawn away. He goes in to see his mom. This is for you, Mom. And, thanks, that's nice. Something special for you too. So she gives him a cookie. It's a big bright idea. He goes on over to Dad. Here, Daddy, this is for you. So what incentive are we hoping he's going to get? You guys quickly learn when you're trying to please your parents, you get something good. And probably even faster, you learn if you get on their nerves, you're going to get in trouble. Now, what you guys might not realize is once upon a time in America, this looked cool. And so it was an incentive to look cool. However, through education, that we've learned that the costs for doing this outweigh the benefits of doing it. And so many Americans have quit or never started because of all of the disincentives. Now, less than 25% of the population smokes, and numbers have been shrinking for decades. What changed? Any ideas? Hopefully, you just told your teacher, we got educated. Cancer, death, lungs, coughing, all that fun stuff. So, for a recap, Scarcity tells us we cannot have everything that we want. Every day of our lives, we have to make choices. In making choices, we weigh benefits against costs. Nothing is ever free. There's always an opportunity cost. And a good economic decision creates more benefits than costs. These things called incentives help us to choose which choice to make. With this in mind, we're going to talk about the market economy. The world's economies provide us with a lot of choices, and the world's shoppers have a lot of different interests. Individuals have more wants and desires than really can be satisfied. So people are motivated by their own incentives personally, and we all measure our opportunity cost differently. The greatest lesson the market can teach is that it requires compromises, and these are made to have the greatest utility. Sellers want to make profit. Buyers want to acquire goods and services. Employers need workers. Laborers need jobs. This leads to the idea of supply and demand. And it determines the prices. Supply and demand determines prices. So here we have a lot of freedom to decide what we want to do with our lives and how we want to spend our money. The market economy allows sellers to compete for consumer dollars. Over here we have the supply, all the different things you could buy, and we have people going into demand. Price of labor. So we know wages are determined by the demand for a lot of different things. But the question is, how come this guy on the left makes $30 million while this guy makes $7.25 an hour? The answer, supply and demand. We love basketball, especially high-flying and acrobatic defiers of gravity. So there's a huge demand for that. Everyone loves watching it. There's only one LeBron. There's a very tiny supply of people who can play basketball the way that he does. We love fast food, though we know it's not good for us. So there's a huge demand here. But there's endless choices for different fast food types, and the process of making fast food does not require unique skills. Just about anybody can fill that job. So there's an even bigger supply. While there is a big demand, there's an enormous supply. So on the side we should have written where the high demand and low demands are, and high supply and low supply. Anybody recognize this? Maybe you've seen it in a movie. This is actually the Motorola Dynatac 8000X, the world's first cell phone. It went on sale on March 6, 1983, and the initial price was $3,995. In 1983, that was a lot of money, and it still is. This phone had enough battery life for 30 whole minutes of talking, and there was a waiting list of thousands of people anxious to buy it. Now, there was a ton of people that wanted it, a ton of money there, and this created the incentive for technology companies to continually go back to the drawing board and create more and more spectacular devices that more households could afford. You guys remember the first flat screen TV you got in your house, or the first iPod, digital camera? This happens over and over again. Now today we have cellular technology that allows for all kinds of communication, video streaming, and downloads with more computing power and memory than the technology that sent all of our astronauts to the moon. Many are given away with service contracts. The question is, how did that happen? So write down right now your answer on the side. Why do you think that happened? The answer again, supply and demand. In 1983, one company made cell phones with very expensive parts and a great amount of very costly labor. So there's a very, very tiny supply. People were crazy about it and they waited for months before delivery. So a very big demand. Now in 2011 and 2014 even, many companies make a variety of phones with very inexpensive parts and very little human labor involved. So there's a huge supply of cell phones. Most consumers have a phone and they spend most of their money on services. So demand is slowing down. I'm sure you've got your high and low demand marked up there. I want you guys to read each statement below and decide whether the price of the item will go up or go down. Also, is this because of a change in supply or demand? And you're going to circle for each question number 1 through 5, price up or down. So you'll circle the up arrow or the down arrow. And then you'll circle, is this because of demand or supply? So one of those two choices. First, a ticket to see your favorite football team now that they've made the playoffs. So is the price going up or down? And did this change because of the demand or because of the supply? A gallon of gasoline after a huge hurricane shuts down oil drilling platforms in the Gulf of Mexico. Price going up or down? And is it because of the demand or the supply? A bushel of corn after farmers in Iowa discover a more powerful fertilizer. Is the price going up or down because of demand or supply? More powerful fertilizer. A pair of designer jeans after everyone's favorite celebrity is seen wearing them the night before on an award show. And last, a Big Mac after researchers determine that eating too much fast food causes students to get lower grades. I know, we don't seem to care about anything if we want our Big Macs. But go ahead and discuss these answers with your teacher. So to recap, in order for the market to work, it must be open to everyone. In a market economy, it has to be open to all of us. Markets are created to allow buyers and sellers to profit. Remember that sellers get their profit, or get their money, and that's their profit. Buyers get the items they're looking for. That's their profit. The price helps buyers make decisions on what they will purchase and helps sellers determine what they should produce. If you're not going to make much money for something, you're probably not going to sell it. If something costs too much, you're probably not going to buy it. And wages, the money that you make, they're determined by the supply and demand for the job skills offered. The more few and far between your skills are, the more money you can demand for it to do it, if someone needs it done. Now, is the market really powerless to do anything about the price of gasoline? So look at this. This cartoon says a nation of cows. Gas headed toward $5 a gallon. Nothing we can do about it, really. It's not the oil company's fault. Just stay passive and get milked. Go ahead and discuss this for a moment with your teacher. Can we really change the price of gas, or do we just have to pay what they demand? What about the supply and demand will decide this? Go ahead and hit pause, and when you're ready, we'll come back with our writing activity. Now the question for your Just Right written conversation, which is on the back of your packet, is anything in this world truly priceless? So what you're going to have is a written conversation, which is a quick write. You're going to use complete sentences to quickly write down your thoughts for this question so they can easily be read by your partner. No text speak. PPL does not belong here. All talk during a written conversation must be in writing. No oral communication is permitted. A written entry must be focused on the writing prompt. Here is anything truly priceless. All responses need to respect the comments and ideas of your conversational partner. However, disagreeing with a viewpoint is a natural dynamic in many conversations, and you're encouraged to respectfully disagree and offer your own interpretation. You're expected to write until your teacher tells you to pass to your partner. So the prompt again is anything in this world truly priceless? Answer this question using evidence from your Lawn Boy notes. So fill in your first response, and then your teacher will direct you on how to handle your passing as time comes. And remember, you can always rewind this to see any information that you missed. Thanks for taking notes with us, and I hope you love Lawn Boy as much as I do.